Hey guys, well I want to have a bit of a talk about all the little mods that I did. I want to sort of go over them and discuss on how good they are and was it worth all the effort. Well, the intercooler was probably, for me, because I love chasing power, was probably one of the biggest gains. Removing this intercooler, guys. It's really given this engine, because you've got to remember too, I've gone back to a 308 cubic inch from 355. So taking out that intercooler, now I've got so much more response. Now what I mean by response is throttle response versus spoolage. Always had a slight, it's always almost a slight delay. Well now, and that's what it was that intercooler, guys. That's what it was, having to fill it up, and that extra bit of pipe, it does take time. Now, it's straight from the turbo, straight into the engine. And what that's gone and done, it's made it so responsive. So you can wrap on the throttle, and the turbo, it's really like building boost is a lot quicker. That's what I'm trying to get at, guys. Like going back in engine size, I would have thought, yeah, you're going to make it more laggier, but it hasn't. It's actually made it a lot more, if not just as responsive as the 355. So to me, that's a huge win, guys. It really is. They say too, on average, you lose a little bit of what would you call it? It takes a bit of boost, a pound or two to push through an intercooler too. So there's a gain there, guys. So a great thing, getting rid of that intercooler. And now it's had a great, so it has a flow-on effect. The radiator now doesn't get any by-heat from the heated up air from the turbo. It's getting cold air straight from outside. So that's had a huge effect on cooling too. And you've got to remember too, once the water meth sort of kit gets hooked up, well, that's going to have a massive gain there as far as internally for the detonation and everything. So yes, that's a great thing, getting rid of that intercooler. There was 7-8 kilo of weight counterlevered over the front. So there's three things I can just go off there that I've gained by removing that intercooler. So that was a really good win in my book, getting rid of that. The second thing is, guys, was the oiling mod. Oh, hang on, before we go on that, this little trick here that Blair suggested that I do was put in some barb waterline fittings at the back of the manifold to let out any steam pockets that accumulate in the back of the heads. So there was another little trick I did there. So yes, I don't know if that's worked or not, guys. You probably never tell, but at least for now, that's all done. It's not leaking. It seems to be working because it gets quite warm in there, and I've sort of done that. The next trick is the oiling mods, and that was the real reason why I pulled the engine out. And that, in my opinion, has had a huge effect on this will do, but for now, pulling the oil out of the back of the heads was the real clincher for me, because when I came home and looked, it was completely chock-a-block full of oil, the line, and that to me meant that it was actually overflowing that little bit, so you're getting a build-up of oil in the heads, so the pump was pumping it out externally back into the side of the sun. So for me, that's a great win. I'm very confident now at sustained revs and not having an issue of oil building up in the heads. So that's how confident I am on my little system there. building the sump for extra volume. That was another really great design. There was a lot of thought process that had gone into that. Now I'm storing around about 9 litres of storage in my sump, which is, it's amazing. I just keep putting the oil in and it doesn't seem to fill up. So that's a great thing, guys, because you've got to remember we're only doing sort of 4 to 6 laps. So that's extra oil to try and heat up. So I've got a lot more volume. I've got a lot more oil in the bottom of the pan too. So, and building in that, what would you call it, like a baffle around the pickup. If you notice that in the vids. So for any hard shifting, it sort of just settles the oil in the bottom of the sump. So that's a good thing too. But the pickup, that was a challenge, that, guys. It really was. What I had in my head wasn't necessarily the right design. And you guys, I really thank you guys for helping me come up with a solution to my problem, and made me aware that yes, I did need that finer mesh and the extra bracketing, all that. Look, and at the end of the day, it came up like a beast. It really did. I ended up radiusing the inlet pipe on the pickup too, and I put a nice radius, so instead of the sharp sort of edge, you've got this nice radius, and that encourages sort of oil to enter into the pickup. And you know, because when it's idling, I'm getting around sort of 40 pound at idle, even on hot oil, and that's crazy. That other engine, I'd only sort of got around 30 pound of oil at idle. And it seemed to be really consistent too down there at the track, which was really nice to see, sort of hovering around the 70 pound mark. And that's what you want, consistency. And that's what I'm getting, guys, with my modded pump, my modded sump, all the associated bits to keep oil in the pan. And that's what it was all about. And I've achieved it, so I'm really happy. I will put that accumulator back on, but I want to find out whether I can mount it in the cab of the car. I'm not sure on that one, but next club day I'll ask the question, and yes or no, and we'll go from there. But yes, the camber is another thing too, guys. That's had a big impact on it too. Even though I never sort of pushed over hard down there, I felt that the front was felt really planted. Whereas before if I was going around a corner, it almost felt like the wheel wanted to dive around a little bit. And not that I had understeer, but it just felt it was like it was rolling out on the edge. And now I've pulled them in at the top, more negative camber. It must be just sort of helping stand up and getting more even, what would you call it, the tyres, a lot more grip on the track rather than trying to roll on the outer edge. So I'll probably give it more camber once I keep getting faster and faster, but for now that was a little step in the right direction for me. The transmission, that was another thing that I found out once I pulled the motor out, you know, with the 355 with all that thrust wear. That was a great learning curve for me, that one, because the early signs with the restriction on the line cooler seems to be good so far. So because I have pulled out the 2 extra coolers in the front, now that I just run a decent single one, I've got a lot less restriction, so I can hopefully not create too much thrust against the converter to push against the engine. Well, I've got the gauge, and the gauge is showing good signs at the minute. I think I got up to about 53, 55 pound there at one stage. They say any more than 60, you've got an issue, but for now the signs are looking good. So there's another thing you can do with that if I do have still too much oil pressure, is to put a relief valve near the gearbox as it comes out, as the fluid exits the gearbox. You can put a relief valve and dump it back into the side of the pan. So you can have a 50 pound, for example, relief valve on it. So if there is a restriction built up, it'll dump oil and relieve the pressure against the converter. So we'll see. I'm monitoring things as we go. The signs are looking good, but if there is an issue, I can go down that road and address it. The converter was fine. The gearbox is actually a beautiful gearbox and it's performing like a beast. So yes, the signs are good so far. Alright folks, well that's just a little bit of feedback for you guys that all them mods that I've done in the last sort of couple of months have really paid off. I've got no actual engine leaks in the motor. I've got one little tiny leak off, it's actually off the drain box. It's hard to, on the braid, to try and hose clamp it. And I've got a tiny little leak off that. I'll fix that, and I've got a little leak off my scavenge pump too, so down below. But the motor itself is perfect, and we're going really well at the minute. All right, guys. Well, it's just a little update to, just to let you know that it's all good, and all that work that I put into it was well worth it. All right, folks. I'll catch you later.